Okay, here we are. We're at home. We're doing yoga. All right. Welcome to this gentle yoga class. And I'm Micki, and some props that might be handy: the wall, the ground, okay, possibly a yoga mat, maybe a blanket or a pillow. I was going to bring a pillow, but I forgot one. You could also have blocks or a chair, and then maybe something to use as a strap. So I just have this is a yoga strap, but you could even use like a TheraBand or what is that? Like the rope that you tie around your waist, a belt. You could use a belt. Okay, so let's come down to the ground if it feels comfortable. You could also practice this class in bed if you wanted to. It's Sunday morning after all. Um, Possibly it's Sunday morning since you might be watching your recording. If you're coming down to the ground and you have a blanket, I'm going to show you my favorite way to lay on the ground with a blanket. Okay, so you could take this, you could even do this with your yoga mat. You might make a small roll with the blanket, a really small roll, and then that could go right underneath your heart center. And it's a lovely little heart opener. So then you can like walk around, lean back, maybe wiggle out, and find that place to rest your back. Either if that feels like too much sensation with the blanket roll and you're like, oh no, I'm not there yet, we can press into the heels and just unroll it and just come to rest on your back. And then one of the more gentle shapes that we might start out in, and you can always sit upright, whatever feels good to you. You might come into what's called constructive rest. And this is with your feet on the ground. Maybe you walk your feet as wide as your mat and allow your knees to come in and support each other. And then you might rest your arms next to your sides, or it could feel good to open the chest by cactusing the arms. So imagine they're like big goalposts. And then a third option could be to rest the hands right on the belly. And right now, just arriving in this moment, this is yoga. Allowing your shoulders to soften. Allowing your brow to soften. Just taking a moment to really tune in to your breath. Softening your shoulders down towards the ground. You might imagine that you're being held by the earth. And just relax all of your weight into the ground. Noticing where your feet, where your hips, where your spine and shoulders, arms, and back of head make contact with the earth. Each class, I like to explore one of yoga's ethical practices. So I'm reading quotes from the book The Yamas and the Niyamas by Deborah Adele. And this week, we'll explore the second yama, which is called Satya. And it means truthfulness. The first quote she has says, "Is my yes coming from a dark corner or the light in my heart? And just allow that to resonate with you for a moment. And then allow your awareness to travel down into your heart center. You might feel a glow at your heart. Maybe there is an intention there for your practice. And that intention could be Satya, truthfulness, if you like. And then we'll start to invite some movement into the body. So if you have that blanket roll underneath you and it feels good, you're welcome to leave it there. If not, you can always roll onto one side and just press the blanket out of the way for a moment. But we will start on our backs. And then maybe if you have a yoga block or a strap handy, you could have that close by. And once you come onto your back, if you're not there already, you might hug your knees in towards your chest. And this is where I like to use a strap to just give myself a little bit more space. So I'm going to wrap the strap or belt around the shins. And then you might take a moment to massage gently, slowly the low back. So you're maybe making some gentle circles with the knees. Breathing into your back body, allowing yourself to notice any sensations here. When you're ready, you can take the knees in the opposite direction. Once more, tuning your awareness into the back, the low back, the sacrum, which they say is the keystone in our body. And think about that center space, your sacrum. Taking some nice deep breaths. And then when you're ready, you can release your knees and we'll allow the knees to float over to the right. And you can stack them on the right, opening your arms maybe out into a letter T. So opening your arm in each direction. You might turn your gaze over in the opposite direction as your knees. So my knees are on the right, and I'm going to turn my gaze towards my left hand. You could stay right here, just enjoying this twist. Or if you want to invite a little bit of fluidity, movement in, this is totally optional. You might try lifting your left fingertips up, following your gaze as you reach that hand over towards the right hand. And then we'll glide the arm across the chest, opening back up into your twist. Maybe it feels good to take that fluid motion a few more times. Allowing yourself to follow the rhythm and pace of your own breath. You can always come back to that question of yes. Is my yes coming from the dark corner or the light in my heart? And that's a question of boundary, right? What is my yes? We'll open back up into that twist. And then you can draw the knees back into the chest. Give yourself one more hug. Maybe stretch your nose up towards your knees if that feels okay. On your next exhale, you can lower your head back down and bring your knees in the opposite direction. So now your knees are twisting over In the opposite direction, you can turn your gaze maybe to the right if your knees are to the left. Allow yourself to soften here into your twist, breathing through that twist in your spine. It might feel good to invite that same movement that you tried on the other side on this side. You might gaze over at your opposite hand, maybe your right hand, and you start to lift that hand up and over. Reach it past the right or the left fingertips. And then glide your hand across your chest, opening back up into a twist. If that feels good, you might try exploring that movement a few more times, just following the pace of your own breath, whatever way works for you. When you feel ready to stop the movement, you can come back onto your back body. Take one more nice deep breath in your twist, and then roll back onto your back. Now, from here, you could either hug your knees into your chest. Maybe it would feel okay to rock and roll up and down the length of the spine, or just roll onto one side and press yourself up into a seat. Some things that can help for sitting are, if we want, you can take a blanket or a pillow to sort of elevate your hips. And that way, that can take some strain, a little bit of strain off of sitting up straight. Another option is you have that wall there, maybe, but lean against the wall and really take some of that extra effort out, or use a chair, whatever you find to be most comfortable. And if sitting cross-legged for too long is uncomfortable, just tune into your body. Don't feel like, oh, I have to do what she's doing exactly. You could also, maybe the knee is feeling kind of like, oh, I don't want to bend that way. You could straighten the legs, or like I said, sit on a couch, chair. Make it comfortable for yourself, make it cozy. And the higher you get your hips, also maybe the less effort in keeping a long spine. So as you come upright, or even deciding to stay on the ground if you like, just take a moment to arrive wherever you're at. Maybe close down the eyes or soften the gaze. And you might take one hand and then the other hand and place them on top of the heart. Almost like you're warming your hands at a fireplace. You might imagine a little flickering flame there. Sense into your intention, and then allow your head to gently bow, allowing your head to bow towards your heart. Take some nice deep breaths into the upper back. And then we'll inhale, bring the head back to center. You can relax the hands into the lap. And before class, we were talking about this idea of breath and how important our breath is in yoga. And really, one aspect of using our breath could just be using it in place of whatever movement. If the movement feels inaccessible, one thing we're trying to do is help ourselves regulate our nervous system through the breath. And it turns out that there's this whole bit of study about the vagus nerve, but the vagus nerve, they're saying, is running down along the side through like our neck. And so when we're practicing humming, singing, chanting, and breathing, we're helping to soothe our vagus nerve and soothe our nervous system. And so you can even think about in yoga, sometimes we are trying to challenge ourselves on the mat. In a way, we're putting ourselves in awkward positions, hopefully not hurting ourselves, so that we can also train ourselves that when we're in awkward situations in life, we can come back to our breath and come back to finding comfort within discomfort. Maybe not like pain though. But that's just a way that we can help practice regulating our nervous system. So what we'll do is just practice our most probably popular breathing technique in yoga, which is called ujjayi breathing. And it's also referred to as like the ocean breath. So what we're going to do is you can close your eyes or keep them open. We'll seal the lips, not strongly, just softly seal the lips. And you can allow your tongue to rest right at the seam of the top of your gums and your teeth. And then imagine that you were going to fog up a mirror. So let's say you had a mirror right in front of your face and you were going to, actually, maybe let's practice that. Opening the lips and just gently fogging the mirror. And you can hear that little bit of sound. I mean, maybe it's a lot of bit of sound, but you can hear that sound and it reminds you maybe of the sound of the ocean, or like if you were taking an ocean shell and holding it up to your ears. Now we're going to still make that breath, but instead of breathing it out through the mouth, we're going to breathe it out through the nose. And you can still hear that gentle, soft sound of the ocean. Softly, gently breathe in through the nose and listen for the sound of the breath. It actually requires a tiny bit of constriction at the back of the throat. And practicing this breath, helping to calm and soothe our nervous system. I think I find that through the practice of yoga, that when times get tough, my body is trained to practice this ujjayi breath. This is the warrior's breath, they say. See how well you can practice softening your body as you tune in to the sound of your breath. There's lots of different breathing practices we can explore in this class, and these breathing practices are called pranayama. Pranayama is one of the 8 limbs of yoga, as are the yamas and niyamas that I was discussing earlier. Now, throughout class, you might just stop yourself at any moment during your movement or pause and just notice if you can capture that ujjayi breath. And by capture, I just mean notice it. See if you can tune your awareness into the sound of your breath. From here, let's inhale, sweep the arms up, maybe look up. And then exhale, you can land your hand at your right side or left. We're always going to do both sides. It doesn't matter if you're matching with me or on the opposite. And if you want a little support here, if you don't want to go as far, you could land your hand on a block or some other bit of furniture. And we'll go ahead and look up, reaching the fingertips up towards the sky, maybe gazing up if that's okay for the neck. And then you might go ahead and exhale as you sweep the arm down and around. Go ahead and paint some nice big circles with the fingertips. As you breathe into the shoulder, the side body, maybe even the neck. It could feel nice to follow the fingertips with your gaze. And remember, you can always stop, pause, take a moment to tune in with your breath. That's mindfulness. That's yoga. Questioning whether or not the movement is right for you and your body today is also yoga. That's part of that discernment. We call that in yoga viveka. Deciding what is right for me today. Next time you reach your arm up towards the sky, we'll go ahead and reach both hands up Draw all the goodness that you'd like into your heart center and bring the hands into Anjali Mudra. This is a prayer pose. We call this a gesture of gratitude. Go ahead and allow your head once more to gently bow towards the wisdom of your loving heart, gazing down at that beautiful intention. We call those yamas also gems. You might picture your intention as a beautiful glowing gem. And then when you're ready, you can lift your gaze, reach the arms one more time, right back up towards the sky. And then exhale, opposite hand can find the ground or a block. You can reach that other hand up towards the sky and you might look up. You could stay right here. You could always stay in stillness. You're getting a wonderful stretch this way. But if you want to explore movement, you could find that reach with the hand across at a diagonal, and then find those beautiful glowing circles you're painting. Maybe there's glowing rainbows, glitter coming off the fingertips. It's your imagination. You get to do with it what you like. Take some nice deep breaths, sensing that ujjayi breath. Maybe it feels good to take one more nice big circle. And then when you're ready, you can reach your hand up towards the sky, reaching for the divine. You can reach both hands up. Feel a nice stretch as you grasp hold, whatever's up there. And then draw in all the goodness that you'd like into your heart center, into that ujjayi, or sorry, no, this is the Anjali Mudra. Think about cultivating that ujjayi breath. And see if you can listen for it. Feeling the soothing waves of your breath, just like the waves of the ocean. When you're ready, you can blink your eyes open. We're going to take our fingers, we're going to kind of warm up through the wrists in case you want to come onto hands and knees. That's always going to be optional though. You can always stay seated or find any other position that works for you. So let's just warm up through the wrists. You can bring the hands together and then interlace the fingers, befriending yourself, like holding your own hand. And then you can start to create some figure eights, warming up through the wrists. I'm pretty sure it's completely normal to hear a bunch of snap, crackle, pops, and I'm hearing them too. So you can just imagine the little Rice Krispies in your wrists, and this is good for them actually. It's warming them up. And then go ahead and go the opposite direction because we're creating some, or we're lubricating the joints with synovial fluid. In fact, when I go the other direction, I don't even hear as many snap, crackle, pops. So maybe that's a good thing. When you're ready, you can release your hands, give them a little shake. And for those of you who would want to stay seated, we're going to do some more with the spine. You're welcome to stay in a seat. You can, like I said, always stretch the legs. If that's becoming too much for the knees, give them a little shake. So you could do your cat and cow here, seated. Let's start with that. And then if you want to move to hands and knees, I'll show that next. So if you're staying seated, if you want to spread the legs wide, or if you want to even just change the cross of your legs, you can bring your hands either to rest on your knees or your shins. And we'll inhale to lift the heart forward. We call this cow pose. And then exhale, round the spine back. So go ahead and find a few rounds of cat and cow. If you'd like to stay seated, you can. If you want to move to hands and knees for cat and cow, especially because I'm on this hardwood, not carpet, and I even have two yoga mats down, I'm going to take a nice fluffy blanket and pad my knees. And take really nice, good care of our knees. We don't want to hurt them if we can avoid it. I also sometimes like to give my wrists a little break. So you could place your palms underneath wrists underneath shoulders, or you could rest your forearms on blocks. This is part of the reason why I love blocks. I have these cork blocks, so they're nice and firm and heavy. So we can inhale for a little bit of cow pose, allowing the belly to drop, the heart to lift through the forearms. Lift through the biceps, and then exhale, round the spine. You could also, if you didn't have blocks, you could try this just even with your forearms on the ground. You're just going to get a little bit different range of motion. Take a nice deep breath wherever you're at. And you could even explore some other movements when you feel ready. Maybe making some big barrel rolls with the belly button. Stretching into all the corners of your spine. Take a moment to admire your spine as you move. Picturing an amazing snake-like quality. You might imagine for a moment that your heart is able to overflow with gratitude for this spine, for this body. Take another nice deep breath, and if you haven't moved in the opposite way, if you were rotating into a barrel, you can go ahead and reverse, find the opposite direction. And as you move, you might sort of notice any differences as you're moving in this other way. Take one more nice deep breath wherever you're at. And then if you're in a hands and knees position, go ahead and bring the big toes to touch. Start to open the knees wide, and you can come into child's pose, leaning the hips back, maybe walking the hands out in front. You could allow the forehead to rest on the ground, or you could stack your forearms or your hands so you kind of bring a little platform to lift your head up a little higher. If child's pose is not going to work because you're not wanting to be on hands and knees, you can always come all the way down onto the belly. We are going to be coming there next, or in a little while we are. So if that works better, you can always come all the way onto the belly. And a nice way to rest the nervous system here is going to be crocodile pose, stacking the palms once more and lowering the forehead down. And if you are going to come down onto the belly, you might like to move that blanket out of the way. If you're in a child's pose, from your child's pose, go ahead and press up to hands and knees. And we're going to try thread the needle. We can also do thread the needle on the belly. So if you're, or even like I said, if you're sitting, that's okay. This would be the action of thread the needle. If you're seated, would be a stretch across the chest. So it'd be bringing the right arm across and holding maybe with the left hand. So this is the stretch if you're seated, and you don't have to be seated like I am. I'm sitting in kind of we call this a deer shape, but this would be the action here, stretching through the shoulder. Or if you're in hands and knees, you can thread the needle under. So you'd be bringing, maybe I have the left hand now, under the body. You could bring a pillow or block to rest the head if you want to bring the ground up higher. or you can rest your head all the way on the ground. If you're laying down on the belly and you want to do thread the needle, you could have your right hand up, thread the left hand under, and again, you might like to have a block for underneath the head. So one thing to notice is just how there is infinite variation. Take a nice deep breath in whichever variation you chose, or maybe one that you know of from other classes. And then take some nice deep breaths wherever you are, and you can try thread the needle on the opposite side. So if you're laying on the belly, remember it was just taking the arm underneath, possibly having a block or pillow for the head. Or maybe it's from child's pose, or maybe it's from seated. Take some moments to check in with your breath as you arrive in whatever shape is working for you today. And then when you're ready, if you like, we'll come out of that shape. And if you're in hands and knees, you can take your way down to maybe onto the forearms to a forearm plank, and eventually we'll land on the belly in Sphinx pose. So you can stretch your legs back one at a time, stack your elbows underneath your shoulders, press into the earth to lift the heart and the chest. And you might roll the shoulders up towards the ears gently. Allow the shoulder blades to rest down the earth or rest down the back as you lift the heart forward. You could even find a little bit of traction here and strength building. If you want to press your hands into the earth, you can gently, energetically drag them back as you lift the heart forward. And on the next exhale, go ahead and stack the palms, lower your forehead all the way down to the back of your hands. And you might bend the knees, point the heels up towards the sky, and maybe tick-tock the heels from side to side if that feels okay. Take one more nice deep breath here. And then when you're ready, you can bring your feet back down. So the tops of the feet are touching down on the mat. And then we'll plant the palms underneath the shoulders. You can press up to table, and we're going to make our way to standing. So for standing, if you want to come through a downward facing dog, this is totally optional. I'm going to show using blocks for downward dog. So I'm going to bring both blocks on the low setting, and I'm making sure that they're very stable. Notice they're not going anywhere. And my heel of my hand is right against the edge of the block. And then from here, you could tuck your toes under and lift one and or both knees, or you will want to lift both knees, and then you can start to walk your feet up towards your hands. Any amount that feels good. You can start to hang here in your down dog, or maybe you bring your hands all the way towards your feet and you come into forward fold. Can be nice if you have blocks or a chair to bring your hands onto something steady. You could also use your legs for this. You could press your hands into your shins or your thighs. And we're going to come to halfway lift. So start to lengthen through your spine using the strength of your core to lengthen your spine halfway up. Exhale to forward fold. Let's try that 2 more times. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. Inhaling to halfway lift. Exhaling to forward fold. And then find a little micro bend in your knees. Imagining your legs are like springs. We're going to press into the earth to press the torso up and come up to stand. As you stand, you might lift your arms, if it feels okay for the shoulders, up towards the sky, looking up, reaching up. And then once more, draw your hands to your heart, bringing your hands in prayer position at your heart center. Take a nice deep breath here. And then go ahead and relax your hands at your sides. And we call this standing pose here Tadasana, mountain pose. And so for a moment, you might start to feel yourself strong like a mountain. Feel your feet glued to the earth, rooting down, drawing energy from the earth up and into the body. And then we'll blink the eyes open. And I thought we might do kind of a nice warming breath while we're standing. This one is called Breath of Joy. So you can kind of stand your feet a little bit wider so that you have a strong base. And then from here, it's going to be 3 breaths in and then a long exhale. So I'll show you how this looks. We're going to inhale the arms up forward, and then you'll inhale them out, and then you'll inhale them up. And then on your exhale, you'll hinge forward from the hips and let it all go. And then we start again. Inhale, arms up, out, up, and let it go. And you can exhale through the mouth if you like. Inhale up, inhale, inhale 3 times, exhale. Go ahead and continue for a few rounds at your own pace. The next time you exhale, you can either find yourself in a forward fold, you might wrap your opposite elbows, allow yourself to hang heavy, or slowly rise back up to standing. And just take a moment. You might bring your hands over your heart, checking in with your breath, your heart rate. And then we'll blink the eyes open, coming back to our mountain pose. So just a shorter, little bit shorter stance so that your feet are underneath your hips. You can have your palms open to the front or at your sides, and find a little bit of a tuck to your tail so that you can start recruiting a little bit of your core engagement. And this is part of what I've heard about. We talk a lot about low back pain. And so we can do some more to strengthen through our core, just even through standing. By just recruiting, it's like one teacher described it to me. I loved this description. She was talking about we can think of our low back as the mother and the belly as the child. And there's the mother chasing after the child, right? And so instead of chasing after the child instead we stay and we allow the child to come back to us. I don't know. I thought it was a beautiful description, so I thought I would give you that a little bit. But not holding the breath. allowing the breath to flow, feeling the movement of our abdominal walls, opening and closing with the breath. Okay, we'll blink our eyes open. We're going to come to a balance position. So for balance, it can be really helpful if we have a wall to hold on to or a chair, something close by. And we could also use the help of a block. So since we're going to start on the left leg, we're going to start with tree pose. I'm going to put a block right next to my left foot. Well, actually kind of in the middle of both feet. From here, let's start with hands on hips, or if you want to hold onto something, you can hold onto a chair or the wall. So you position yourself accordingly. And then we'll start just by peeling the right heel off of the mat, rooting down through the left foot. From here, you can stay right here. And actually, I find this to be a glorious stretch for the right foot. And we can work on balance this way. Or you can plant the foot against the calf, or some people jump over the knee to the upper thigh, or you can balance it on a block. Well, would be one other option. Whatever works for you. And even keeping the toes on the ground so that your heel is resting on the ankle, that's another glorious option. You can keep your hands on your hips, open them out to the sides, or maybe you want to grow your tree lips up towards the sky, reaching your fingertips anywhere, maybe even hands touching above your head. And we want to find a dristi, a gaze point. So this could be a focal point on the ground, at the horizon, at the sky, someplace where you can find a focal point. And you want a soft gaze. We call this a dristi. And we just work on balance. We just practice it. When you're ready, you might challenge yourself to pick up that right knee and balance a little bit more, and then step it out and then just shake it all off. Any tension, allow it to release. You might feel the gentle massage of your arms grazing your sides. A little massage. And then when you're ready, we'll come back to neutral, come back to our mountain pose Tadasana. Take a moment to close down the eyes or soften the gaze. Bring your hands to rest on your heart center. And just notice any effects on that one side. When you're ready, we'll drop the hands to our sides, and then you can start on the other side. A nice way to start is just peeling the left heel off of the mat. This could be what your tree looks like today. And that feels like a glorious stretch for the foot. You might bring the left heel up against the right ankle or the calf. Whoa. And if you have a wall, maybe even just do it right up against the wall. Allow the wall to be your prop. And then what could be fun about playing around at the wall, you could do it with your eyes closed. You could practice coming away from the wall, but just knowing that it's there anytime you want to soften back into the support. And you might try practicing bringing one hand up at a time, maybe one tree limb, maybe both, finding that dristi, that beautiful, soft, gentle gaze. And realizing that all these trees, right, they have to be able to bend in the wind. So there's imbalance, not one place. When you're ready, you might release that left knee to hover and then step the feet out wide and shake it all off. This pose is palm tree pose, I think. No, I've heard it called that. Imagine yourself like a palm tree, shaking in the wind. And whatever no longer serves you, that discernment of viveka, imagine you're able to shake it off right now. Anything you don't want for this week, let it go. When you're ready, we'll come back to stillness. Find your mountain pose, Tadasana. Maybe bring your hands right onto your heart. Feeling that warm glow, feeling your own tempo. When you're ready, we'll release the hands from the heart. Inhale to sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale to swan dive forward, hinging from the hips, and then landing your hands anywhere for support, pressing into that support to lift up halfway, and exhale to forward fold. We're going to be coming onto our backs for our final resting pose. So I want to invite you to get there however you'd like. If you want to follow me through a downward dog, you can plant your palms and maybe step your feet back to downward dog. And then you might bend the knees and softly, softly, softly land them on the earth, walking the knees forward, and then coming onto the seat. As promised, we are going to be coming onto our backs. If you want to do a little bit of core strengthening on the way, we might play around with boat pose. So we're going to just do boat pose just for fun, just to come onto our backs. So from here, with your knees bent, your feet planted, you could tuck your hands behind your thighs and then start to lean back, feeling the strength of your core. You might release your hands for more. You might bring one knee or shin up and just play around with that balance, lifting with the heart, finding that buoyancy within you. Whenever you feel ready, hug the knees into the chest, rolling onto the back, and you might reach up. You could either tuck your hands behind your thighs, bring your knees wide, or walk your hands up onto your ankles or your feet for happy baby. You might gently rock a little side to side. And then using that idea of asking yourself, is the yes coming from a dark corner or from the light in your heart? What feels right for you right now? If you'd like, you can complete any other shapes, poses that are your favorite, and savor those. Or maybe you're ready for your final rest and you want to lay flat on your back. You could take a blanket, find some ways to make yourself comfortable. If it's uncomfortable to lay flat on your back, that can be a little bit hard on the low back. This initial pose we took, constructive rest, with the knees bent and the feet flat on the mat, that can be a little bit gentler on the low back. And then just allowing the knees to cave in. So find what's going to work best for you. Allowing yourself to cozy up. Take a moment to relax through your forehead. Soften through your jaw. Imagine just like making a bed. Can you feel the sheets of your eyelids smoothing out? Allow your shoulders to rest heavy on the earth. Feel the warm embrace. and the earth beneath you. As you rest, I'm going to offer you some more words on the theme of Satya, truthfulness. To see if you can allow those words to wash over you. A person of substance is willing to stay present in life no matter what. Even through initial unpleasantness. They know that staying present with the truth of the moment will add more depth to their lives and grow them up to be creative and responsible. There is a profound courage to this kind of willingness to be raw with reality as it is, rather than run from it or construct a barrier to soften it. We must be willing to take the risk to tell ourselves the truth and grow ourselves into someone who we can trust. Being truthful with ourselves makes us trustworthy. It frees up all the time we normally spend in guilt or regret from dishonesty. Living the life that cries to be lived from the depths of our beings frees up a lot of energy and vitality. Our juices flow. Everyone around us benefits from the aliveness that we feel. We are here on this earth to self express in a way no one else ever has or ever could. Take a moment to revisit your intention at your heart space. Imagine a little bubble machine living at your heart, each bubble carrying with it something you might find gratitude for. Allow your breath to deepen, and as those bubbles of gratitude find their way down into your fingers and toes, you might invite a little movement there because you're at home in your beautiful, wonderful space that you've created. You're always welcome to stay longer giving yourself the rest that you need, that you deserve. And if you're ready to reawaken the body, you might start to bring those rotations up into the wrists, into the ankles, feeling grateful for those joints, all the different directions they can move. Maybe you find a long body stretch, taking up as much space as you can, growing long from the fingers to the toes. And then when you're ready, go ahead and roll onto one side, finding yourself in a fetal position, allowing yourself a moment to rest, taking a few rounds of breath. And whenever you're ready, you can press yourself up into a seat, inviting your hands to meet at your heart. Allow your head to gently bow towards the wisdom of your loving heart. Thank you all so much for joining me. It's an honor and a privilege to guide you through your practice, and your attendance matters. Thank you so much for being here with me.